Okay, this is part 2, people. we Welcome back to our stream. This is Fights Unwrapped. We had a technical difficulties in the beginning, and now apparently it sounds way better, which is good. Okay, now not only am I joined by Alec Carr, I'm also joined by Dustin Hunt from Fights Unwrapped as well. Welcome back, buddy. So excited to have the whole crew
What's
with
going
us
on?
talking. There you go. All right, so we're gonna do this whole topic over. We're gonna do this whole headline over. Okay, this is well, Dustin, you got some guests going on or something like that. All right, we
No,
got
she
the
did. My wife didn't think I was doing it, and she walked in here.
Oh, okay, don't worry. Now we're in the middle of a stream, but she can always join. We're always welcome. We're always welcoming guests to join. So we're doing this topic over. This headline
Maybe
is
one day.
Khabib. Maybe one day. Khabib creates a feeder league for the UFC. So basically, I'll just give a little bit of a backstory on that. So Khabib, when he retired, he bought out this league called. Well, it was supposed to be called Guerrilla Fighting Championship, but then he renamed it to Eagle Fighting Championship, and that's from Dagestan in Russia, right there. And now he's saying that he wants to create this. It's a feeder league. So basically, his rules are you have to surpass this number of title defenses, or not title defenses, just defenses in general. And if you become a champion, if you surpass these defenses, then you hopefully get a contract with the UFC. That's what it's not proposed. It's just proposed. It's not like guaranteed, or it's not a done deal. So I guess I'll start with Alex since we're starting this segment over again. So what you think is a good idea? You think this is a really brilliant idea?
Yeah, I think it's genius. It's an idea that I wish, in our chat I opened up with this headline saying the UFC needs to hire me because I had this idea months ago. Um, I think it's a great idea. It separates them from the pack even more. They have with the Khabib's feeder league, the EFC, with Dana White's Contender Series, with Tough, they are dominating, absolutely dominating the up and comers, the prospects. I mean, it's unreal, and I think it's a genius idea. Dana White would be kind of stupid to do it, not to do it. I mean, just because it really does. It makes it not only supports UFC, but it hurts Bellator in one championship, which we love. We like Bellator, we like one championship, but I mean, there's something to be unified under one fighting promotion because it just makes it a lot easier for fans to pay attention to. So
Yeah.
I think it's a genius idea. But what I was saying in our robot voices in our previous stream, um, is that Dana might have the caveat of saying, "We'll do this, Khabib, but you need to come get your 30th win first, and then
Right.
we'll sign the contract for this." Because Dana does hold all the cards in this scenario where Khabib holds none because he needs Dana to make money off of this.
That's right. So what about you, Dustin? How do you feel about this feeder league that they're proposing? Look at Justin. Oh, I guess it's
Actually, it's perfect. Yeah, that is an unwrapped shirt. I literally just opened this right before the broadcast. I didn't even know it came. My wife gave it to me. Um,
nice. Their shirt. There you go.
yeah, there you go.
Model it, man. Model it.
So when it comes to the Khabib feeder league, the whole extorting him for the 30th win, I don't think that's going to be a part of the negotiation. I don't think that Dana's going to try to extort him.
Okay.
But if he came back to do a 30th fight, I mean, there's only a few guys I want to see him fight. I mean, if he wants to do a super fight with Usman, I'll take that.
Oh.
If he wants to do a McGregor 2, I'll take that. Because
think
McGregor, in my opinion, is the only fighter who might give him problems. So therefore, I mean, it's either McGregor or Usman. I mean, those are the only two I could see making it a fight. Everybody else is going to get beat up. Other than that, the feeder league is a really, really good idea. It's going to attract a lot of fighters because if it's a feeder league, that means it's probably going to be an automatic contract. So that's going to attract a lot of fighters. Problem is, a lot of them have to move to Russia. That's the only thing I
Yeah.
see weird is the movement because American fighters are going to have to go to Russia and probably stay around that area. You don't want to keep flying back and forth, back and forth. That's why Brazilian fighters move here.
Mhm.
But
That's a good
it
point. That's a good
just
point.
I think it's a good idea. It's going to be really competitive. I guarantee it's going to bring a lot of the pros that aren't in the UFC yet into it. So I guarantee it's going to be a dogfight throughout the entire each division. So because
Mhm.
everybody wants that contract. I mean, there's not one person who doesn't want an automatic contract to UFC. So it's a
Yeah.
great move. But he's also pushing for the Olympics. So that's going to change the game in amateur ranks. I'm gonna say that like
Right.
Dana White's dominating right now, but if there's the amateur ranks and May gets more popular, it's going to be easier for Bellator to see them. It's going to be easier for one to see them because Dana is just heads and shoulders above on recruitment. So therefore, no one can touch him. But the amateur scene gets bigger. I really do think that the talent will be a little bit more spread out. So it's
I
a great
was
idea.
yeah. I was talking to Dustin like in our last week's stream about this, like pretty much how like Khabib is trying to move the MMA into the Olympics, which we think is really good. We think it's going to be way more competitive for the amateur scene. We're going to see more amateur like scene, pretty much getting competitive. But I still think, even though like pretty much the only reason that Bellator, at least right now, or one championship is going to get their fighters is or new fighters is because of this. This new headline. Okay, so basically, this is just one person, Yoel Romero, who recently parted ways with the UFC. But what I mean by like why I think Bellator is getting their fighters is because hey, now Rachel Ostovich, Yoel Romero, 60 more names are going to be cut from the UFC, and so this is only one of the big names. He's saying that he cut Yoel Romero because he's 44 years old. He's lost his last four apparently out of five bouts, and so that's what it is. So did you guys? I thought this was surprising, but then it kind of makes sense because he's making all these big cuts now. So, like, I guess Alec, I'll start with you. What do you think about Yoel getting released, and what do you think in general about these big cuts? Like, 60 more names are going to be cut from this roster.
Yeah, it's very rare when somebody gets cut from the UFC and I'm like physically sad because Romero is one of my favorite guys to watch. I mean, win or lose, he puts on a show, and there's an argument that he won the Costa fight, which would make Dana's argument moot. But anyway, we won't get into that.
Yeah.
Um, it's just a shame, and it was sad to see. Though, after listening to Dana and really doing some research on it, it does kind of make sense. He's 40, like you said, he's 44 years old. He's coming off of a bunch of losses. Granted, to some of the top opponents, he's coming off of losses too. But Dana's and Dustin kind of touched on this before, is that Dana's really, really good at evaluating talent. Um,
Yeah.
yes, he's made hiccups, i.e., Ben Askren and Demetrius
Oh my
Johnson trade,
god.
but
Oh
but but
my
but I mean, yeah, except for his few misses, this is he's been right on point with most of his cuts, right on time, and you're right. Bellator won. Well, Bellator says they want nothing to do with him.
yeah.
Um, one hasn't made a statement yet, which probably means they're trying to negotiate. Bare knuckle fighting says, bring them, let's do it,
Bare
which
Knuckle wants
terrifies.
everybody. They want everybody. That's what it
Right,
is.
right, but I don't want to see Romero and bare knuckle. God, he'd kill somebody. Um,
They would want that for sure.
uh, yeah, they definitely want that. But I mean, it goes back to the point, and this can be talked about in a different stream, that they're just sitting there waiting for the UFC scraps. That's really what they're doing at this point. Not always. Me and Dustin got in a heated argument about Rory McDonald the one day.
I know. Literally 80 notifications later, people on my phone.
But I mean, and he was definitely not scraps. But for the most part, that's what they're doing. They're waiting for retirees. They're waiting for people who weren't good enough to make it and stuff like that.
That's right.
So
So I guess 60 more names, people, are going to be cut from the UFC roster. So I think we're gonna be in tears. I think some of our favorites are definitely gonna go. A lot of people arguing like, okay, so if Yoel goes, Weidman has to go because Weidman like hasn't like he's up there in age and he hasn't fought that many, he hasn't won that many as well. So like
The most
hopefully,
overrated fighter in UFC history,
yeah, oh
Chris
my
Weidman.
god, I know. I know, it's crazy. But I wanted to bring up this one thing before we move on to the next headline. Hopefully, Dustin can join us back sometime soon. I heard that Anderson Silva, like I heard like bare knuckle fighting or some other promotion didn't want anything to do with Anderson Silva, and like for me, I understand he has a desire to fight, and he's always going to have the desire to fight. But like, what comes a time in someone's life when even if bare knuckle fighting, if this is, I believe it's a rumor, I'm not too sure about it. Even if they didn't want to, you have to say like maybe it's time, to really hang up the gloves and to focus on your academy and like your own other aspirations like business aspirations as well, right? So
Yeah.
what do you think of that? Like, what do you think of? I think you think Anderson Silva should just hang it up, like just for real, hang it up, and like you don't have anything else to prove,
And yeah, Silva, you're done, dude. You're done. Go home. It's time to go home. Like,
But
we
like I
love
have his
you.
boys at the gym like at like 5 a.m. in the morning still,
Right,
right? And he's like not
right,
going home.
right.
Yeah.
We love you, Anderson. We loved watching you. You're probably right now. I would say right now, out of all the fighters, even John Jones and some of the other guys, I would say right now, Anderson Silva is the greatest of all time. He's the greatest to ever do it. He's the greatest to get into the octagon, um, and just hang it up. I mean, seriously, just hang it up. And for a guy like Anderson, who's been fighting since he was 3 years old, it's got to be really hard for him to do. I don't think he ever, because initially he wanted to retire. I just don't think he ever really planned for life after fighting.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think it was bare knuckle fighting. One, it didn't came out and were like, we don't want you. Like, and I think they're looking out for his own safety. Like, dude, you've been in battles. It's time for you to just go home, spend some time with your family, focus on promoting your brand, making that money
Evaluate the
afterwards.
next move, or yeah,
Right,
evaluating your next move, which Khabib is doing phenomenally. So that's why
right.
I brought that up. So everything is all connected. All these headlines are connected in some way.
Always, always, Monique.
Okay. Always, we always have our headlines connecting, and this is your time, Alex. I know you've been saving this since last week. Well, not this specific topic, but this is it. I know this is what we call Alex rant of the week. If I can get that up and going, let's see. But basically, I have some Wi-Fi issues. No big deal. It says the Alex rant of the week is that Tony Ferguson threatens to bail on this Saturday's co-main event against Charles Oliveira if DuBronx does not make weight. Now, let me give you the context, people, before Alex starts with the rant, okay? Why is Tony Ferguson saying that? Well, one of the reasons is that he has a history of not making weight. Okay, that's number one. However, I will say the history of him not making weight is in featherweight, not in lightweight, in featherweight. Right? And Tony Ferguson, I guess, was upset ever since not just him, but other fighters not making weight. And he made a whole spectacle of it. And he's pretty much whining like a little girl instead of like focusing. Just focus on your fight. You have this opportunity, and if you get this opportunity, you're probably gonna fight. I don't know, the winner of Dustin versus Conor, or somebody, or Michael Chandler, hopefully versus Justin Gaethje. I'm hoping for that fight. So why are you complaining about this? Don't threaten to leave the fight. People are watching this pay per view. Not, I swear, Alec Carr, people are gonna watch this pay per view not for Figueroa, even though it's a big deal. Figueroa and Moreno are a big deal, but a lot of people are watching this pay per view for Tony Ferguson. So what are you doing, man? Okay, now this is your rant. This is your time to rant now.
So,
That's your intro.
bef- before I get angry, let me say that
Disclaimer.
Tony has a point about people not making weight. It has been a huge problem recently, more so than ever before. Paul Felder's mentioned it. Um, I think DC mentioned it on a broadcast. Other guys have mentioned it. You gotta make weight. You train to make weight, so you got to do it. And I agree with Tony on that. What I don't agree with is everything else. Tony Ferguson, you need, for the first time in your career, you need to shut up and fight. Like,
Yeah.
just like you have no room to talk. You have no negotiating platform. You came off of a long layoff from an injury. You you trained to fight Khabib. We get it. You trained to fight Khabib, and you trained long, and you wanted to fight Khabib, and we wanted to see you fight Khabib, and we get that you're angry. But you fought Gaethje and you lost, and you didn't look good in the loss. You had moments, but in total, you looked bad.
Yeah.
Now, the UFC gives you, and we'll talk about this when we talk about the card. The UFC gives you not a gift fight, but a fight you should win. A fight that Dana White is probably saying, "Win this, and we'll get you right back into contenders, to being a true contender again." And you have the balls to come out and say, "Well, if he doesn't make weight, I'm not fighting." Dude, you need to fight. You need to prove that you're the same old Tony. Because right now, you don't look like the same guy. You look like a shell of yourself. You look like a guy that's about to drop in the rankings, not skyrocket back up to number one. So you gotta shut up and fight, dude. You just got that's what you have to do. Is just go in there, handle your business, and then say, I'm ready. Give me a top three. Give me a top three guy. Give me a top two guy. I want to fight Gaethje again. I want to fight Connor. I want to fight Chandler. Let's make this happen. I'm in it to get this championship. We get that you're angry about Khabib, that you'll probably never get to fight him, but get
Yeah.
over it. Get over it. This is your time. This is what you've been waiting for. And the other thing that really bothers me is he's
Mhm.
acting like he's this four-time, five-time defending champ. Dude, you're not like the. I understand Connor didn't defend his belt, but we all know that Connor has some different pool. Tony,
Yeah.
you're not Connor. You're not Khabib. You're not John Jones. You're not Izzy. Hell, you're not even Figgy at this point.
And
You have
officially, right?
you
Yeah.
don't have a leg to stand on the negotiating table. You have to take the fights. Period. And that's it. I'm sorry.
You need to like, okay, Alec, you need to be like that person, like, like when a kid is acting like just out of his terms, and he's like, who the hell do you think you are? And like, you should just, if Tony Ferguson was a little kid, you would like literally give him this speech like a parent or something like that. So you need to just be quiet and take a fucking fight. Or be
Yeah,
quiet and do your homework or something, or take a test or something like that, right? So,
be quiet. Go to
so
class, Tony. Come on. You
yeah,
gotta fight, dude. You can't be threatening. I'm sure Dana White is going. I'm sure Dana White saw that and was like, "You drop out of this fight, you're not getting another one. You're not
yeah.
getting another one.
I
Not
don't
not
give
for not in 2020. It's maybe not in 2021."
Yeah, no, you have a point there. Your point of him of when you said that a lot of people are not thinking that Tony Ferguson. I don't think a lot of people think he's gonna win this fight, and that's what your point is, because we don't know which Tony is gonna come back. I'm still on the fence about it. We'll talk about this obviously when we talk about the card in just a little bit, but yeah, like I think that you don't have any you don't have a backbone right now because you just lost to Justin Gaethje, who got demolished by Khabib, and we get it. You like Khabib is gonna be the one girl that got away from you. That's exactly the analogy that I like to use when it comes to those two because and Tony Ferguson, you just need to move on. Take this fight. Stop whining like a little bitch. Okay, we get it. I absolutely hate people that don't make weight. Okay, do Bronx. I know you have a history of not making weight. I'm hoping he does just for the sake of the pride and the principle of making weight, and he should. He should be able to because it's lightweight, and I don't think he has that many complications when it comes to lightweight. But yeah, Tony Ferguson, don't know where you're coming from. Please don't bail on this fight. I'm pretty sure. Just imagine. Alec Carr. Just imagine if Dubronx does not make the. Sorry, if people don't know why I'm saying Dubronx, that's the nickname or the ring name of Charles Oliveira, his opponent for the Saturday. If he doesn't make weight, I will lose it because I'm telling you, people that I talk to are only watching this pay-per-view for Tony Ferguson. And if Tony
And,
Ferguson's not gonna take this fight, then this is just gonna be a whole
and
another drama.
the other thing it tells me is that Tony doesn't think he's the same Tony Ferguson anymore. Because Tony of last year and the year before and the year before that doesn't care if you make weight or not. He's gonna go in there and he's gonna whoop your ass and he's gonna hit you with crazy spinning back fists and kicks and take you down to the ground and dominate you. That's what this tells me. That's what it tells Dana, most importantly. And for him to, the other funny thing is he's always complaining about money, Tony Ferguson, right? Always. He's always talking about money. He got in a fight with Ali, whatever his name is, of the Khabib's manager. He got in a fight with him on Twitter over you owe me $200,000. He's always complaining about money. If Charles Oliveira doesn't make weight, you get half of his purse.
I know why. I was gonna say you get.
I don't
That makes no
understand.
sense. That makes no sense.
So that's why
I
it
don't.
tells me he's either doesn't think he doesn't have confidence in himself, and he doesn't think he has it, or he's just this upset about not being able to fight Khabib.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just think that he should just be quiet. Take the
Yeah, he
fight.
needs to shut up.
I miss the whole old Tony Ferguson. You know, the one that just would be like, let's stand and bang. Like, where's that Tony Ferguson? Like, nobody talked about not making weight and stuff like that, right? So, oh man. Okay, so just to have some like Wi-Fi issues going on. This will be on. Oh, there you go. Okay, this will be on there, and we will continue with the fight preview that's going to be happening. Let's see. Share screen. Where's our topology right now? So that's all for the headlines today. And now we're going to be, hopefully, if this works, sharing the screen and talking about UFC 256. The whole entire card is amazing. Oh my gosh. Going from prelims all the way to the main card, amazing. So obviously, I'm just waiting for the share screen, but I think I know the memory of all the scheduled fights. So the first one is it Cyril or Cyril Gain versus JDS, and I know that for you, Alec Carr, it's a bittersweet one because I know how much of a JDS fan you are, but I also think I know where your head's at when it comes to this fight. So why don't you give me some insight in that?
So I think I heard his Cyril. We've been saying Cyril Gain because we've heard it that way, but I heard it this
Yeah.
week pronounced Cyril Gane. So maybe it's
Yeah.
Gane. I don't know. Anyway, I apologize, Cyril, if you're watching. Um,
Me too. Me too.
um, but yeah, I I love JDS, but they're giving this to Gain or Gane because this is his first real test, right? He's beaten Tanner Boser, which kind of was his you belong in the UFC fight. Here you go. You beat Tanner Boser. Good job. This is your okay. Now, if you beat Junior Dos Santos, you are a real UFC fighter and you'll get better fights.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm actually torn on this because I don't know.
Really?
I
You're
don't
torn on
know
this?
if Gane's good enough. I don't know. I haven't seen him enough, to be honest with you.
That's fair.
Um,
That's
he
fair.
hasn't really fought top talent. Tanner Boser, you know, Monique, my problems with Tanner Boser. I don't see a great fighter in him. A good
Yeah.
fighter. He should be in the UFC, but he's never going to be a top 5 or maybe even top 10 guy. And then, you look at JDS and you go, yes, he's on a 3-fight losing streak, but that's against Francis Ngannou, Curtis Blades, and Rosenstrike.
Yeah.
3 of the top guys in the division. And before that, he beat Derek Lewis. So, I mean, and Tuivasa, He's beaten these middle of the road guys recently. I'm gonna pick Gane because I think JDS just doesn't have that extra oomph anymore that he used
That's
to
what I was
go
gonna
into
say.
yeah
Yeah.
to go into the next the next level anymore. I just don't think he can dig down and get it. It's not his fault. It's not anything he's doing other than aging. He's old. Um,
Yeah.
so I think it's gonna go decision, and I think it's gonna be unanimous decision. Gane.
Okay. I'm choosing Gane only because this is when I've seen JDS lose his fights. It's like I see him lose in a fashion where he gets like one or two good hits, and then all of a sudden it just goes downhill from there. Like that's how I see his fights recently, and that's why I only judge recently. I love JDS as well. Don't get me wrong. He's been one of my favorite heavyweights of all time. It's just that recently he hasn't had like Alex said that extra to carry him over and to win against these young they're like pretty young heavyweights, or they're pretty young in terms prospects wise. They have a lot of we have a lot of prospects in heavyweights. We just don't really talk about it as well. So there you go. So that's the first fight that we're gonna talk about. The second one, this one it breaks my heart because I love Jacare Souza. I really do. But then Kevin Holland is on this 4-fight win streak. Sorry, I'm going to correct myself. 2020 4-fight win streak. However, this is his first actual test, in my opinion, just because he's fought, he's fought some um, prospects or veterans or whatever you want to call them. They're middle of the road kind of guys, or even less than that. And then now you have Jacare Souza, and then originally he was supposed to fight Hermanson. Now I think Hermanson is a step up in my opinion than Jacare Souza. Okay, in terms of just the competition level wise. Oh man, I don't know who I'm gonna choose just because like Souza's like he is older right now. Oh man, why is this happening? We're pairing these like younger guys with the older veterans that I absolutely love.
It's the
Ugh.
test fight. That's what it is. That's what these two first fights are. They're test fights. Can you hang? Can you hang with guys like JDS and Souza? And that's what they're doing.
But
Um,
they're not like JDS and Souza at 30 years old. They're JDS and Souza at 40 years old,
well,
right?
yeah,
So
that's also because when they were 30 years old, they were fighting for championships. They weren't test fighters then. Now they're
yeah,
test fighters. They're UFC veterans that can still beat middle of the road guys.
yeah.
So that's what it is. Are you a middle of the road guy, or are you better than a middle of the road guy?
I don't know. Holland, he talks a lot.
He does.
He talks a lot. I just don't know if his game is overall that's like on the ground. Is it that
Right.
good? I don't know. I personally don't think so. If Jacare is tough, he can stand and bang with you. I know that for sure. But Kevin Holland has been knocking out a lot of people recently. It's just that Souza, I know he's tough. If he gets him on the ground, that would be a good test to see if Holland knows how to do takedown defense or even just to defend himself on certain, special, like, BJJ and stuff like that. Like, I'm going to. This one was the tough one for me.
You want me to go? I got my
Yeah,
pick.
you go.
Okay.
I can't do it.
So, just more on what you said. Kevin Holland, we don't know a lot about. We know that he's got power. That's it. We know that he's got power for days. Where if he grazes
Long and lanky.
even
He's long and lanky as well.
right, if he even grazes your chin, you might go to sleep. That's who Kevin Holland is. Souza is a monster. Um,
Yeah.
and again, this goes back to talking about just like we did with JDS. Let's look at his last fights. He lost to Jan Block. I can never pronounce his
Blakovic?
last name. Yeah,
Blakovic?
Blakovic.
Yeah.
He loses to him. He loses to Jack Hermanson. He beat Chris Weidman, which
No
Cool.
surprise there.
Everybody beats Chris. He um he lost to Kevin Gastelum, but that was when he was on his way up. Beat Derek Brunson, lost to Whitaker. Um, and when he loses, it's a lot. It's a lot of decisions.
Yeah.
So he's really good at taking the fight.
Is it?
Here's my breakdown. If Souza can get this out of the first round, it's his fight to lose.
Yeah.
I think if he can hang on him against the cage and bring him down and work on submissions and just keep transitioning and work his ground game, I think he wins this fight in decision or by submission because we all know he loves to tap people out. Um,
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick Kevin Holland though, and I'm picking Kevin Holland because he's long, he's lanky, he's a great striker in the UFC, and I think he's going to put him to sleep in the first round. I think that's just what's going to happen.
I
And I would
hope
hate to see it because I love him too.
so.
He's a staple in the UFC, but we got to make room for these young guys. And you're right. He's Holland's only beaten lower end guys. But the one fight that keeps coming back to me is Buckley is on this ride right now. Holland
Yeah.
beat him this
Yeah.
year, and no one talks about it. So,
Because
for,
Buckley outshines because they're both on the spotlight right now. That's
right,
why they're not talking about it.
right. So, I'm going to say Kevin Holland wins in a knockout in the first round. Am I 100% certain about it? Absolutely not. If it goes out of the first round, Salz is going to win for sure.
Okay. I'm leaning towards Kevin Holland, but I really don't want to lean towards Kevin Holland. I'm not saying I don't like Kevin Holland. It's just that I love Jacare Souza just so much more. So that's probably why I'm saying it. So all right, this is the third last fight before we get into the co-main and main event. So we got Moicano versus Fiziev, if I'm pronouncing that right. I love Moicano. I really do. But Fiziev, okay, that's the thing. Fiziev, like the people that he's faced right now, it's like it's not, like look at Moicano's repertoire and his resume. That's why I'm hanging on to Moicano right now just because I don't know why. Like, cause I just know his resume is just more impressive. He's beaten more impressive fighters. Obviously, he's been in the cage with some of my favorites, and Fiziev has a lot, still has some way to prove himself. So, what do you think about? Do you think this is a test fight for Fiziev
This
as
is a
well?
huge step up of competition for Fiziev. Like, kind of out of nowhere. Like, Dano, you must see something in this guy. And I got to say, I found a couple of his fights on YouTube that I rewatched. This guy is exciting to watch.
He's a killer. He's a killer.
I mean, he is a, a monster of a kickboxer. He puts together ridiculous combinations. He has a knack for finding the liver with his with body kicks
Yeah.
that I don't know how he sneaks them in there. I mean, Daikisi, right? That's how you say his name.
Daikisi, yeah.
Yeah. Daikisi. I was watching that fight, and there was one. I think it was in the second round where they were exchanging, and all of a sudden he got his shin right against the liver, and Daikisi was like, "Oh my god, where did that
That's all
come
I
from?"
remember.
Um,
Yeah.
the only issue is he's going up against a guy that's going to take him down and take him down
I
successfully.
was gonna say that. I was gonna say that. See, that's why I'm saying for me, Moicano is why I'm picking him. Is because of that. Because he knows how to
Right,
do that. He
right.
knows how to do
And
that.
the only submission win that Physios has is, from some years ago in 2016, whatever promotion he was fighting it for was a rear naked choke hold, which he could have lucked into. That does happen sometimes. Um, so it's hard for me to pick this fight because Fiziev he's a beast of a striker. He is an up and coming striker in this division, and we should look out for him. Also, he dodges head kicks like he just ducks
Yeah.
them like he's in the Matrix. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna pick Maikano for sure. I think because he's not old. He's 31 years old. He beats
Oh,
the middle of the road.
yeah.
He beats the middle of the road guys. I think he's gonna take him down and tap him out. I'm gonna say second round submission win for him.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so I believe, Alec, this is it. This is the fight that we're gonna disagree on. Okay, so this is the co-main event. We are talking about Tony, I'm a whiny girl Ferguson versus Charles the Bronx Oliveira. I chose another nickname for him, like, because this is not the Al Kakui,
No,
that
it's not.
not the Al Kakui that I'm used to seeing. That's for sure. So I'm calling him Tony the whiny girl Ferguson for right now, okay? Because that's what he is. But in the octagon, oh man, it's just so hard because I love the both of them so much for different reasons. Oliveira, he's just on a roll. Like he's just knocking people out. He's a submission, like one of the best submission artists in my well, like one of my favorites. Probably like top two favorite submission artists of all time. And then you have Tony Ferguson, who like he's a motivated Tony Ferguson, but it's weird because his motivation is kind of like faltered, but because he's whining about Oliveira making weight or not, So I want to say a motivated Tony Ferguson is scary, which it is. But just how motivated is he? Because he seems like it in the videos, like in Embedded and Countdown, if everyone's watching it, he seems very, very motivated. But then he makes a statement saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna bail if Oliveira doesn't make weight," and that kind of pisses me off, as well. But I don't know, man. Tony Ferguson, he's a special fighter in my opinion. But like, does he still have that oomph to him, or is he gonna go like straight down like we think that JDS, or we think that yeah, like do we think that JDS is gonna go down just like Tony Ferguson's gonna go down? I don't know because I'm judging from both like what happens on the ground, what happens on the feet, and like and both of them, it's gonna be a good matchup. Okay, let's just say that. I'm like my head is like spinning right now because I think I have Tony Ferguson, and I think I have him, but if it goes to decision, I think it goes to Ferguson in my opinion. If it goes past the if it goes not past the second round. Like maybe Oliveira has that one. So I don't know. I'm like I think I know who you're gonna pick though for this fight. So because my head's spinning when it comes to this fight, that's for sure.
So I have to be consistent in my pick, right? That's one thing I don't like
Yeah,
when people are not consistent or to have strong opinions about somebody and then don't stick with them.
yeah.
Um,
I'm sticking with mine. I'm sticking with mine. So
leading, yes, you are, and leading into this until today, really, I was siding on Tony. I really was. I was saying, you know what, he's got to have a chip on his shoulder. He's got to have something to prove. He's not. He knows he's not the fighter that fought Gaethje, and I'm motivated. Not just a motivated, because he is motivated. Uh,
he's motivated. Yeah,
if he's not, I just think he's past his prime. I've said that to you. I've said that in the chat. I've said that on this stream. I think he's just past his prime, and I think that's what we're seeing. And the reason I was picking him leading up to today was because I was thinking of Prime Tony. Prime Tony should go into this fight, handle his business, and it would be a good fight. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be, but he would beat Oliveira. He would. Prime Tony beats Oliveira every single time. 10 out of 10 fights, he beats him. But I don't think he's that guy anymore. I think the injury has hurt him more, and it's not just the one injury. He has an injury history, and I think it's starting to weigh on him. He's what, 36 years old now.
yeah.
And Tony, I love watching you when you were in your prime, but I'll tell you what changed my mind. I watched the Kevin Lee Oliveira fight, and I saw an Oliveira I had never seen before in his career. I saw one that wasn't just trying to get it wasn't trying to do things to set up the ground game. I saw a guy that was putting together boxing combinations. I saw a guy whose striking was better than I've ever seen him strike before. And he was doing jab, jab, uppercut, left hook into an uppercut. He was throwing Superman punches. Crazy. He was putting together some crazy combos against Kevin Lee, who is no joke.
Hmm. I
And
mean, I
then
think he is, but that's fine.
Kevin Lee. I will say this about Kevin Lee: he's no joke, but he is a waste of talent.
That's
He
why
should be a number one contender,
uh,
but for whatever reason, he
that's why
isn't.
he's a joke to me. That's why he's a joke to me. But anyways, keep going. Keep going.
um, Let me rephrase that. Kevin Lee's a good fighter, even though he is a joke, because he should be better than he is. Um, and Tony, I just see a guy that's past his prime, and because of that, I have to pick Charles Oliveira, and I have to be consistent with that pick. I think he wins this fight. I think he might even win it with the submission. I think I
Wow,
I
that's
I
bold.
I'm
That's
siding towards you going to decision, but don't be surprised if this fight ends in submission or a knockout early. Because if he's the same guy that was in there against Gaethje, he's gonna get
yeah,
lit up. He's gonna get lit up, and he
yeah.
won't last very long.
But that's the thing. We don't know if that's the same guy in terms of like, because he didn't have that full training camp, and like then when I look at his videos and I see him training, he looks really motivated. He looks like the Tony that like like the same kind of attitude that we're used to seeing Al Kukui with. It's just that with saying stuff like you're gonna bail on someone without making the weight, even though you have nothing, like you have no peg to stand on whatsoever, and like Oliveira is scary, man. Like like how what you said, like I think it wasn't the Kevin Lee fight, it was a fight before that. That's when I saw the new emergence of
Hmm.
Oliveira. It's just that Tony's such like he's such a unique fighter that it's really hard sometimes to read him. And obviously Gaethje gassed him up. That's fine. But at the same time, he didn't have a full training camp. So I'm trying to weigh all these options in my head, and so but I'm still siding with Tony Ferguson. But I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, if Oliveira, just because he's like he has this is the best he's ever looked ever, in
Hmm.
my opinion, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if he lights Tony up in the co-main event. So obviously, I knew that was the upset match that you were going to say,
Yes, it
but
is.
I'm not surprised, and I'm honestly like, I'm still on the fence, even though my head is like, consistent with saying that I think Tony Ferguson's gonna win. But that's for sure. I knew that was gonna be the upset fight. So obviously, I think we know how we're gonna feel about the main event. Okay, this is my thing though. I love Brandon Moreno. I love both the Brandos. I like the Brandon Morval. I like Brandon Moreno. I love Brandon Moreno. Have you seen? If you just see his last embedded video, the man's just singing the Christmas carols and being like the nicest motherfucker like on the streets of Las Vegas. Like that's who he is, and he is promising. Like he does have really great striking. He does have really amazing grappling as well. It's just that is it enough to beat Figueredo, who has the knockout power of a freaking featherweight? I don't think so. Unfortunately, I want it. Trust me, if that happens, if he beats Figueredo for whatever reason, because like I don't know if he's longer or leaner or whatever it is, and maybe he can somehow like he's fast. He's maybe you can outstrike him, which is probably not going to happen. But I would love to see this fight on the ground. I really would, just to see, because Moreno's like grappling is like, in my opinion, better than Alex Perez's. So I would love to see what happens on the ground. I don't think because Moreno, like, I think against Roy Val was like he was doing really well transitioning wise, but then like Roy Val is no Figueroa yet, so that's why. Man, I'm like, obviously I think Figgy's gonna win, but my heart really wants Moreno to win because I'm not a big like Figgy fan in terms of like personality and stuff like that. I'm just not a big Figueroa fan, but How do you think he's gonna get knocked out? do you think Do you think Rand Reynolds gonna get knocked out?
I think
That's
it's
supposed to.
possible. I think it's very possible.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you my pick right now. It's Figgy, 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 and then Figgy one more
Figgy.
time. Um, and it's the same reason why I picked him over Alex Perez. Alex Perez is a good fighter. He's a really good fighter. He's going to be a long term fighter in the UFC hopefully. Um, and you know Moreno's a really good fighter too. There's nothing wrong with either of them. It's just Figgy for both of them. And I said this about Alex Perez, and I'll say this about Moreno. Figgy does everything they do better than they do it.
Ugh, I know.
He is
It's
better on the
I
ground.
know.
He's better at standing up. If Moreno, the only chance Moreno really has is if he can use his leg kicks and his jab to keep Figgy off of him, because he does have it's not a huge reach advantage, but it is a little bit. So if he can keep him away from him, that will help. I just the pressure that Figgy can apply to you, and the way that I feel like he knows what he's gonna win by before he even wins.
Yeah, he says
Going in,
that in his videos too. He says like, I have a
yeah,
vision
no,
of how this is gonna
yeah.
go down. Yeah.
I think before the Perez fight, he knew that he was gonna win by a guillotine choke in the first round. Before for the Benavides fight, he knew he was gonna win by rear naked choke in the first round. I think
Yeah.
he knows what's gonna happen. He does his homework. Obviously, he watches tape. He knows the fighters that he's going against. Um, and to be honest, the only guy that could beat him is he's not in the UFC anymore.
Henry
Is
Cejudo or DJ
is
or
the
DJ.
triple C himself, Henry Cejudo.
Yeah.
So I am I part of me wants Bruno to win though, because
He's
it
such a nice
creates, and he's a nice guy, and it creates competition
controversy.
in this.
Yeah.
It creates
Yeah.
competition in this division that desperately needs it, right?
Mhm.
There's some good fighters, some up and coming fighters that we both know about coming into the UFC. Ones that you've talked to, but
Yep.
I mean, this division needs competition, and nothing says that like Moreno beating Figgy. But the other part of me wants Figgy to win, because as much as I hate Cejudo's personality, God, I love watching him fight. And I
I
would
wouldn't know who
love,
to I wouldn't know who to like root for because I hate both of them. Their personalities.
right? But what a great fight that would be. I mean, Cejudo is I would have to pick him in that fight. I said this last time we
Yeah,
talked.
you did.
I would have to pick him in that fight, but it would be over, especially at that weight class. Oh my God, they'd be flying around the octagon, those two.
Yeah.
And if it ever went to the ground, it would just be transition, 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 transition,
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
reverse, reverse, transition, reverse. It would be insane. Um, but I gotta pick Figgy, and I don't know how he's gonna win. But I think we're looking at maybe another first round victory for him.
I'm thinking submission just because Moreno is tough. You know, so he has that Mexican fighting spirit. He's tough. He's obviously gone. He's he's standing and bang with some of the people that he was the huge underdog. He's always the underdog, actually. If I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken. But he always wins. That's what he always says. Like I'm always the underdog, but I always win. I'm like this is another. This is a different kind of like you're an underdog to the man who will be champion for probably a long time coming. Unless Cejudo or whoever decides to come back, and face him. So,
Yeah. Somehow Demetrius Johnson comes back to the UFC.
oh my gosh, please.
And then the whole
Unless
division and then the whole division runs away because they're scared because the greatest of all time in the division is back.
please imagine Cejudo is like after this fight. If Figgy, let's just say Figgy wins against Moreno, Cejudo comes back. Then when that fight's happening, DJ's like, maybe I'll come back. Like, imagine those three coming back just because that would be the trifecta, like how in bantamweight you have the old bantamweight champion, the greatest bantamweight of all time, Dominic Cruz. Then you have T.J. Dillashaw. Then you have Cody Garbrandt. Imagine that kind of trifecta. Imagine that trifecta for like the flyweights. That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why Cejudo left is he took a look at the competition and was like, why would I fight any of these guys? Like,
Yeah.
I'm I'm better than all of them. But now the competition's back, and he's gotten in Twitter spats with Figgy already, so they're building up to it for sure.
Oh my gosh. Don't tease me like Twitter like right now. Just imagine if it doesn't happen. I'm like, damn it, man. You're just going on a Twitter spat for what? You know?
Yeah, and I
Like,
think I could be wrong. So
okay.
Twitter, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Cejudo's never really officially retired. Like Conor McGregor never officially retired. He just said the words. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, meaning, I think he's still not on the UFC active roster, but I think he is, what is it, still being on the USDA or whatever it is list of tested fighters.
USADA? Yeah, USADA.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Oh. Okay.
so I don't think he's ever officially retired from fighting. I think he's hung around and just been kind of waiting until the next guy comes that actually challenges him, which is
Mhm.
Figgy.
Yeah, we're just Biggie. Oh man, it's just that okay. I think I'm gonna end with this saying that it's just you get the really nice guy in Marino, then you got the freaking like mean looking motherfucker in Davison Figueroa, and I'm just like I'm rooting for the nice guy, to win, but the mean one just like he's just like notches above every other person, including Brandon Marino, who I'm hoping this lasts more than one round. At least more than one round. I would love that just because like that's just how tough I think Moreno is. I just want it to be more of a competition of a fight. I want it to be more of a competitive fight. That's just what I want at the end. And if Moreno loses through a competitive fight, then okay, kind of thing. But it's just that we've just seen Figgy. Oh, what the last one? Wait, what's called? That was what 30 seconds before Alex Perez got guillotined the fuck out. Yeah, like literally, right? I
Yeah,
just want a more competitive fight, Alec Carr. I just want a more competitive fight. That's all I
me
want.
too. But it's, I mean, he's getting to that status of, who can we throw up against him that
Izzy
actually is
status.
real
He's
competition.
he's getting to Izzy status
Izzy
right now.
status, Khabib status, John Jones status. But he's got to get a couple more defenses, obviously, to solidify his status. But he's getting up there quickly because
Yeah,
these guys who are supposed to be really good fighters and are really good fighters are getting tooled by him. If he's
yeah,
not there, Alex Perez. If he's not there, it's almost like Khabib. And I'll wrap up with this because I have so many
yeah,
thoughts. But I'll wrap up with this.
yeah, yeah,
It's kind of like Khabib, where and not the same fighting style whatsoever, but it's kind of like Khabib to the point where the rest of the division is good, but it doesn't matter because they're not better than Figgy.
yeah,
It's not obviously as good as that division, but there's some solid, like really good fighters in this division right now. But it just
mhm,
doesn't look like it because Figgy's just so much better than him.
yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Well, anyways, I believe next week is December 19th. That's the last. I believe the last fight night before they get a lull because of New Year's and stuff like that. Let me just double check this real quick. So we'll have
I think so. I think you're right.
a lull of ourselves, I guess. Because the last one would be Thompson versus Neal in December 19th, which would be next week.
And we're welcoming back on that
Yeah,
fight Jose Aldo going against
oh my
Chito
god.
Vera.
Oh my god. Okay,
I
we're gonna
love
get
this
into it.
card, by the way. I can't wait to
I
talk
love it.
about it.
I like this card a little bit better. I'm not gonna lie than December 12th card. I'm not gonna lie. Just because like they have the two co-main events and stuff like that. I was like, I actually like the December 19th card just a little bit more.
I just like it because I want to see Cheeto get his ass kicked.
Yeah, we'll see we'll see which Jose Aldo shows up. Okay, let's just say that.
Yeah.
All right, so and thank you, Dustin, for the even though he was only on for a little bit, we really liked your opinions as well. I can't wait to have all three of us again, maybe next week's card for December 19th, and hopefully a competitive fight we'll see against Figueroa versus Marina. Don't laugh, I know, but I want it so bad. Oh man. And so Alec Carr, you can follow him at AlecTDCarr on Twitter as well as at 4th and 26 Sports. You can follow him that on Twitter as well as Fights Unwrapped in here at Monique. Yep, that's my channel and my Twitter as well. And so thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next week. Happy fight week, everybody. Happy fight night on